Regular season games are coming to a close, and teams are still fighting for crucial seeding in the playoff picture. This WNBA season has had it all. It's been full of excellent team play, standout individual performances, fresh faces, and fond farewells. But with the last possessions of the season being played out this weekend, it is a reminder that the league will soon crown an MVP. And by and large, this year's race has been billed as a two-woman showdown between Las Vegas Aces' A'ja Wilson and Seattle Storm's Breanna Stewart. Two former MVPs looking to add a second trophy to their case. With the final decision looming, I wanted to turn to advanced metrics to see if they could help illuminate a clear picture on who the WNBA MVP should be. To do this, I consider stats that compare players across three primary areas. The first one is offensive production and efficiency, basically who is scoring points at a high volume with good shooting percentage. Second is impact on the game, who's having the largest impact on their team's possessions and on their overall team success. And the third is two-way ability, which players are well-rounded and providing high value on both ends of the floor. For each category, I'll use two advanced stats for comparison and declare a winner. I could just compare A'ja and Stewie for this exercise, but in order to give perspective to their performances and spread the love a little bit, I'll consider the 10 players who currently have the best Vegas betting odds to win the award. And that's A'ja Wilson, Breanna Stewart, Kelsey Plum, Jonquel Jones, Sabrina Ionescu, Arika Gumbawale, Candace Parker, Kelsey Mitchell, and Jackie Young. And with that out of the way, let's start digging into the stats. First, we're going to start with offensive production and efficiency. There's no way around it. To bring maximum value to your team, you have to be a threat offensively. In fact, everyone to win the MVP in the WNBA's history has been the leading scorer on their respective team. But offense is about much more than just padding the box score with points. It's also about efficiency. In order to compare scoring volume and efficiency, I'll use the following two stats. The first is called true shooting percentage, and this is a more sophisticated version of field goal percentage. True shooting percentage factors in free throws and the efficiency of different shot types, the fact that a three-pointer is worth more than a two-pointer. The second stat I'll use is points per 100 possessions. Points scored divided by the number of possessions scaled by 100. This normalizes player performance based on the same amount of opportunities to score in order to get a fair comparison of scoring volume. The plot shown here shows our 10 MVP candidates compared using these two advanced metrics, with a dotted line shown for the WNBA averages. Now, the sweet spot here is to be in the top right portion of this plot, since more points on a higher true shooting percentage is ideal. With that in mind, Breanna Stewart is the clear leader here with a WNBA best 35.3 points on an efficient 60.1% true shooting percentage. A'ja Wilson is not far behind with 31.5 points on 58.1% true shooting. Despite adding the three-pointer to her game more this year, A'ja was not as effective from three as Stewie. A'ja is averaging 1.4 made three-pointers per 100 possessions, while Stewart is averaging about 3.3, contributing to a much higher volume of points scored. So here, the winner is clear. It's Breanna Stewart. From this analysis, there's no one in the same ballpark as Stewie when it comes to elite scoring volume and efficiency. She's a threat to score from any spot on the floor, and when she gets help from her Storm teammates, it's tough to outgun them. I want to give an honorable mention here to Kelsey Plum. Let's not overlook the fact that Kelsey Plum is right there with our lead MVP candidates in terms of scoring. 29.6 points on 60.8% true shooting has her as the Aces' leading scorer and deserving of these dark horse MVP whispers. The next category we'll focus in on is overall impact on the game. Overall impact is a bit fuzzier to measure, but I think I've got two stats that do a pretty good job of summing this up. The first is called player impact estimate. This is a metric to gauge overall impact that includes essentially all box score stats. It's also normalized based on total game performance from all players, such that an average player will have a PIE value of around 10. The second stat I'm going to use is called usage percentage, and this is a measure of the percentage of a team's possessions that end with an action by that player. This involves field goals, free throws, and turnovers. These two stats actually complement each other very well. High usage percentage alone is not necessarily a good thing since it includes turnovers and doesn't account for whether a player actually makes their shots or free throws. For example, Kennedy Carter for the LA Sparks has one of the highest usage percentages in the league at 27.4%, but I don't think anyone is exactly chanting MVP for her this season. High PIE values are always a good thing, but that doesn't really paint a complete picture since you can have a high impact score built primarily on defensive impact. For example, Han Shu for the New York Liberty is among one of the top of the league in PIE at 14.1, but this is built entirely on her defense and rebounding. A player with a high usage percentage must have a correspondingly high PIE to account for the team's possessions that they are using up. Otherwise, they should be passing the ball to someone else. Thus, a player with a high usage percentage and a high PIE is a player that is relied on often and is also making the most of the opportunities they're being given. Looking at the plot here of our MVP candidates, Breanna Stewart has the highest usage percentage at 28% and supplements that with the league's highest impact estimate at 19.2. This really tracks well with the eye test. Whenever you watch a Storm game, it seems like Stewart always has the ball in her hand and is always making a play at the basket or getting to the free throw line, making the most of nearly every opportunity she has. It's tempting based on this analysis to say that Breanna Stewart is the clear winner here again, with Asia coming up short with a PIE of 17.4 and a usage rate of 26.8%. But at this point, we have to discuss the fact that the Aces have two other MVP candidates on this list in Kelsey Plum and Jackie Young, with better than average PIEs of around 11.7 and 11.2 respectively. Stewie's higher impact score and usage rate are not necessarily a byproduct of her being a more productive player than Asia. These higher numbers are undoubtedly affected by the fact that Asia has other teammates who are playing at a high level and giving the Aces good value. She would be foolish to not get Kelsey Plum, Jackie Young, and Chelsea Gray involved on a nightly basis. We can see a bit of this borne out in Asia's higher rebounding numbers, averaging 3.1 offensive rebounds per 100 possessions to Stewie's 1.9. This is indicative of Asia playing more like a traditional center at times, playing closer to the basket, and grabbing rebounds for her shooters. The fact that her impact and usage are even close to Breanna Stewart are a true testament to how she is making the most of her opportunities and how the Aces still rely on her production despite the presence of other elite players. Now, when it comes to claiming a winner in this category, I'm going to call this one a tie. While Stewie's impact estimate is higher, the lower usage rate of Asia, along with other considerations of elite players on her team, make this one hard to call a winner for. For an honorable mention in this category, I wanted to shout out Candace Parker. At 36 years young and 13 seasons in the league, this plot shows that she is still providing insane value. A PIE of 15.6 with a relatively low usage rate of 22% is really good value for a Chicago Sky squad with other impact players on the team. The final category we're going to look at in this comparison is two-way ability. Being a solid overall player is a requirement for an MVP. Adding value is impossible if you present a liability to your team on either side of the floor. In order to compare how good these MVP candidates are on offense and defense, I'll use the following two stats. First is offensive rating. This is a measure of holistic offense that includes assists and offensive rebounds in the metric. It can be interpreted as the total amount of points produced by a player per 100 possessions. This points produced includes assists and second chance buckets off rebounds. The second stat is defensive rating. This is very similar to offensive rating and can be interpreted as the amount of points a player gives up per 100 possessions. Because of this, lower numbers of defensive rating are better, while higher numbers of offensive rating are better. These stats obviously complement one another for this comparison. The basic question we're trying to answer here is how many points are you producing per 100 possessions versus how many points are you giving up in those possessions while you're on the floor. This plot compares the offensive and defensive rating for our 10 MVP candidates. I've reversed the x-axis, so the sweet spot here in this plot is again the top right corner of the plot. This means you're producing significant offense while on the floor and not allowing as many points on opponents' possessions. This plot really fortifies my previous point about A'ja Wilson contributing more to overall offensive production than Breanna Stewart. A'ja has the highest offensive rating of any of the MVP candidates at 111.8, paired with a defensive rating of 98.1. Claiming a winner here, I'm gonna have to go with A'ja Wilson. While Breanna Stewart has a better defensive rating at 94, it is clear that A'ja is offering the best mix of offensive and defensive production for her team. Again, this is largely driven by superior rebounding. A'ja has the 5th highest rebound percentage in the league at 16%, compared to Breanna Stewart's rebound percentage of 11.9. As an honorable mention for this category, I'll have to give it to Jonquel Jones. She actually has the highest net rating of any player on this plot, and last year's MVP is still having an amazing season, posting one of the best defensive ratings in the league at 92.1. So in conclusion, it's a very close race for MVP between A'ja and Stewie, and the advanced stats bear that out. At the end of the day, both have had MVP caliber seasons, but the stats point to a slight edge to A'ja Wilson, based on a more well-rounded game, even if Breanna Stewart is a superior scoring threat. Summing it up, A'ja is simply the most impactful player on the best team in the WNBA. It is tough to argue that anyone is contributing more to winning basketball this season than A'ja Wilson. That's all I got for this one. I'll see you in the next one.